Hello everybody, welcome to another K2 webinar. Today we will be discussing trapezoidal roofs. And so my name's Kyron Murphy. If you haven't seen me before in one of our recent webinars, today I'll be joined again by a colleague of mine, Roman. Roman, are you there?
I'm here. Hey everyone, nice to see you again. For those of you who hasn't seen me the last few times, I'm Roman, also working in the technical department, and I'm joining Kyron today for the webinar. Okay, back to Kyron.
Thanks, Roman, for that quick introduction. So as I said, we will be discussing trapezoidal sheet metal today. But before we get started, we're going to do a quick little poll just to gauge everyone's experience with K2, with our software, with our components. So we'll just do that at the beginning. Hopefully it won't take too long. We don't have as many people here today as the last couple of webinars. So we'll do it for a few minutes and then we'll get right into the products. Roman, can you put the first poll up, please?
Of course. All right, I will start it now. Hope everyone's ready. Let's start the poll. Okay, the question is in German. It means, are you using K2 base regularly? And let's start. What do you think, Karen? Give him a few more seconds.
Yeah, I think that's good. So we're about 2/3 regular and 1/3 not, which is pretty consistent with the last couple of weeks. So it's good to see we're getting a similar numbers. Can we move to the next one, please?
Yep, sure. Just 1 second. Here we go. Second question. Did you ever use K2 mounting systems? Yes and no. I'm sorry for the German questions. We haven't changed them up yet.
Yeah, we had a German version this morning, everybody. So apologies for that.
Okay, so a few more seconds. I don't think much will change now.
So good to see quite a few existing customers.
Yep. All right. And the last question we have. Karen, you want to explain?
Which system? So we have roughly 20 people who have already been using them, but we just would like to know which systems that
which are using mostly.
Yeah.
And it's a multiple choice, of course.
Yeah, you're able to answer multiple here. MiniRail, MicroRail, and MultiRail. Perfect. That's what we want to discuss today. So hopefully we'll be able to provide lots of information about this topic.
Very good. Okay, Karen. I think my part is done for now. You'll come back to me later.
Yeah.
I'll give you the word. Okay. Yeah. Have fun, everyone.
We will. Thank you very much, Roman. So today, everybody will be discussing trapezoidal roofs. So we actually have a bit of a model today. This is actually plastic, but for all purposes for today, this will suit us very well. There's a few points I'd like to make about the roof itself, and this is very important for any trapezoidal roof.
Before you start, one more thing I have to interrupt. I'm very sorry for this, but if you have any questions, we will have a Q&A round at the end of the webinar. And until then, you're always happy to ask questions in the Q&A section. There's a chat. There's a specific chat for this. So please ask questions in there. Sorry for interrupting, and thanks again.
Thank you. I forgot to mention that before, so I appreciate it. So yeah, the roofing. So for trapezoidal sheet metal, we're going to be discussing systems that only attach through the sheet today. So next week we will have a webinar on solar fasteners and hanger bolts, and these are more suitable for when we have sandwich panels, so sort of insulation between the top sheet and the bottom sheet of the roofing. But today we'll just be discussing fastening systems that attach to the top layer. So when we have a trapezoidal roof, you can get most of this information from the from the data sheet, or you can measure it on site, but there's a few important points. So first up, we need the distance from peak to peak. So it can be taken from either side or from the middle, but this is an important part that we need to input into our base software, which Roman will show a little bit later. We also need to know the width of this crest and the thickness of the material. So whether it's steel or aluminium, the thickness is important. It has different strengths and therefore can withstand different loads. Yeah, so I think that's about all for the material, roof material itself. We can show now some of the products. So we have, probably to start off with, is our classic SpeedRail. So if you were here last week, you would have seen the SpeedRail being used for flat roof systems. And it's the same material with our standard K2 channel on top and our flat base. So instead of having mats like we did last week, this is fixed to the roofing through our K2 speed clips. Just to have a bit more review here. So this is a plastic polymer, and it's based with a EPDM sealing strip. So this will ensure no moisture comes into the roof on the bottom when it's screwed in. And we just align these on either every crest or potentially every second crest, depending on how much, what the loads are in your project and the region, what the requirement is. The SpeedRail can then slide in, and it just sits in. So perhaps from the side view, it will be a little easier to show. We have one side that is a little bit longer than the other side. Sorry about the lighting there. But we slide the SpeedRail into one side, and then it just clips into the other side. And so you'll notice there's a little bit of wiggle room on the top side here. However, when we place these onto the roof, perhaps every second or third speed clip, we're able to turn in the other direction, and this effectively locks the SpeedRail onto the roof. This is what we would consider a long rail, and so this is a continuous rail underneath all of the modules. We're able to do this up to 8.8 meters without a thermal gap. And then we can start another rail. So all of these, this is a very small section, but generally these would come in 2.25 meter, 3.3 meter, 4.4 meter, or 5.5 meter. If we then have say we want more than 5.5 meters, we want to go up to that 8.8 for the maximum road distance we can. So we use a rail connector. This just sits into the rail, and then we screw into the rail using this rail connector. So this is the only what we would call long rail system that we have with the trapezoidal roofs. All of our other systems we would consider shorter rails. And so this is actually, this is the actual piece. This is in the sample. This is this size. This is 25 centimeters long, perhaps 35 centimeters long. And it will sit over the top of the trapezoidal crests. And so there is a restriction here. The distance between the peak and the peak cannot be less than 110 millimeters, and it cannot be more than 350. Otherwise, the holes are not designed or not suitable for these peaks. So in contrast to the SpeedRail, where we had our speed lock, this fixes direct to the roof. So on the bottom, it's the same EPDM strips, and we are able to screw directly through into the holes, and that fixes into the roofing. Notice this also has a different channel. So this MiniRail system uses our mini clamps, which just slide in. And if we compare that to the SpeedRail, which we had before, you'll notice the channel is quite different. We can use our either one mid, one ends, which we push in, clip, or we can use our standard clamps with our K2 slot nut on the end. So just some subtle differences between the two, but it's important to know. As this is not a long rail system, it's a shorter rail, we're not limited by the expansion of the rail itself in terms of thermal expansion, and this allows for a longer distance before we need to put a gap between two modules. And so for the MiniRail system, we are able to go up to the 17.6 meters, I believe, before we need a gap for thermal expansion. The MiniRail can be used in both portrait or landscape. However, the position of the modules, so the position of the clamping is always considered on the quarter effectively, but whether it's on the short side or the long side is determined by the size of the module. So for example, excuse me, Klaus, could we just zoom out a little bit? Thank you. So for example, if we have a module in portrait, we will sit here, put clamping here, roughly a quarter in. And if we are placing in landscape, the distance between the rails is reduced quite significantly, and we clamp roughly a quarter in, but from the short edge. So this is not what you would consider a standard clamping position, and if this is the layout that is desired, you must check with the module provider or manufacturer that that's a suitable clamping position, because not all modules will be suitable for it. Thank you, Klaus. So we have now looked at two rails that run perpendicular to our trapezoidal sheeting, but we also have a number of systems that run, or with rails that run parallel.
Karen.
Yeah, Roman?
We do have a question before you continue with the next rail.
Yeah.
You just showed two different clamps, right?
Yeah.
So they are clamps for what kind of sizes of the module frames?
The sizes?
Yeah,
okay,
the height of the module frames.
Yeah. So the mini clamp, which was for the MiniRail, let's pop back up here, the mini clamp and the MiniRail. So this is suitable for, we refer to it as a universal mini as well. So this is suitable for modules from 30 millimeters to 50 millimeters.
30 to 50 millimeters, that's quite
right. Pardon?
A wide range. Oh,
wide range, yeah. And so, yeah, so the MiniRail and the mini channel is suitable for effectively all modules on the market at the moment. And you don't have to worry about it too much if you have selected the MiniRail system. The SpeedRail with our standard channel, we have two options for two options for clamps, excuse me. So first up, I think I showed the one mid, or in this case, the one end. We also have a one mid that is a similar structure, and these are installed just by pushing and popping, hopefully. Well, I think Raina had this problem with this one earlier today, hey?
Yeah, this one's clamped in the earlier webinar as well.
And so they clamp in. So these are suitable from 30 to 42 millimeters. And so if you have a module that is larger than 42 millimeters, you require a different clamp, which we would call a standard clamp. And so these are not, the range of modules that each standard clamp is suitable for is different. So we might have one standard clamp for 42 to 44 deep modules, and then another standard clamp for 44 to 46, and then another standard clamp from 46 to 48, and so on up to 50. So there is a clamp suitable, definitely. And in our software in base, you are required to put in a module depth. Or if you pre-select a module from the list that's there, it will automatically put this in. And then if you select or you want to use the standard clamps, then it will automatically select the clamp that you need. So in terms of that, you don't have to think about it too much, but this is always something to be aware of. But our software should be able to pick up these and sort of stop any potential problems before they get there.
Thank you very much, Karen.
You're welcome. So where were we? MultiRail. So moving back to our little roof here, we would call this our MultiRail system. And these come in 25 centimeters and 10 centimeters. Notice again, this is our standard channel. So this is with our standard clamps or our 1 mid 1 end that we just looked at. And these run parallel with the roof or with the crests. And so here it's important to know that the crest distance or the crest width, sorry, plays an important part. Now we can't install this on anything less than 22 millimeters. In fact, that's also suitable for our speed clips. It requires 22 millimeters 22 millimeters, so we have a flat surface to drill this in. So our MultiRail, it can come in either 10 or 25 centimeters. This is attached to the roof in the same way that our MiniRail system is, screwed directly through some pre-drilled holes. An important thing to know here is that the pre-drilled holes are a little bit smaller than the size of the screws that they're suitable for. And this provides an electrical connection between the module, if you're using our Terra roof, between the module and the rail, and then the rail and then the roof. So if equipotential bonding is something you're concerned about, this is solved just through the screws themselves. You notice underneath also has the sealing strip as well. And then we have one more, which I have just misplaced. Now here we have. So we also have what we call a MicroRail. So this is very similar to the MultiRail 10. And you'll notice the main difference, however, is the channel. So the MultiRail 10 and the 25 uses the standard channel and our standard clamps. And then the MicroRail uses our mini clamps. So for modules over 42, or for any modules really between 30 and 50, the MicroRail is suitable with these mini clamps. So both of these clamps, both of the rails in the roof direction are mostly suitable for modules in landscape. And so the modules will sit here, coming up towards me. We have an option to inclinate a bit further than the roof. So I haven't discussed this yet, but it's suitable for both our MultiRail system, and then we also have one for our MiniRail. but I'll just show you the MultiRail one first. So perhaps you have a trapezoidal roof that is quite flat, but perhaps between 0 and 3, 0 and 5 degrees, and you would like a little bit of inclination. We are able to do that with, in this case, what we call our dome, our S-dome small. Small because it's a lot thinner than our standard S-dome. Standard S-dome is for our flat roofs, which is we spoke about last week, and you can find some information on that online if you are interested. But the process is very similar. The S-dome small just sits on the MultiRail, and you require this MultiRail 25 for this on both ends. In fact, so I do have a second one actually. Klaus, could you please zoom out a bit? Thank you. So profile from the side, this is a little closer than what it would be in real life. We screw the MultiRail into the roofing, and then with our a K2 slot nut and bolt, we slide that underneath and then just attach that to the MultiRail. So there's 2 fixings on the back and 1 on the front.
Karen, we do have another question.
Yeah.
Sorry for interrupting.
Huh?
A question was, if we are able to use the MultiRail, which you have in front of you,
yep,
with or without the S-dome small, in portrait and landscape position?
So by itself, no, we are like most of our products are have some form of crossover. So we could do a bespoke, bespoke is maybe the wrong word, but make slightly adapted system where we clamp a single rail across the top, and then clamp a single rail, which I don't have here, across the top, and then effectively fix on the long side. The thing with that option though is, if you were to do that, you may as well just use the SpeedRail on the roof. So,
so if I understand right, in general, just landscape.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
But one of the options, actually, it kind of gets to another good point, actually. One of the options of putting a second layer in would be to raise the modules off the roof. And so this would provide a little bit of extra space for ventilation, which could cool the module a little bit, keep it at a more optimal temperature, which will make the modules work a little bit better. And so instead of running a full rail underneath here and using a lot more material, we have another product, which I had not yet shown, called the RailUp, which I have now lost my connector piece for. Here we go. And so this sits on top of either our MultiRail or our SpeedRail. So here we have it. Just a small piece of aluminium, and there's enough space on the top for a clamp, and then underneath just sits on top of the rail. So this is attached with the K2 slot nut that we discussed before, and basically attaches most components we have in K2 in our product class. Could you zoom in a little bit on this little bit? Thank you very much. That's perfect. Perfect. So the slot nut sits on top. The RailUp sits just on top of that. We can put in our screw and give that a quick tighten. So on top of this, we can then put in our, so here if I have one end clamp, which I don't even need to unscrew. I don't know what I'm doing. Apologies. We can just slide that in as well. And then the module will then sit on top of this. And so imagine then we have one here, and then the whole system is raised up an extra 5 centimeters off the roof. This is a fairly new product and allows for a bit of ventilation when no extra inclination is wanted. So this is still a roof parallel system, and it will sit just a little bit higher off the roof, which is sometimes just what you want.
So Karen, I have another question. Sorry for interrupting.
Yep.
If we want to have a portrait elevation, is this somehow possible?
Yes. So the RailUp is also suitable with our SpeedRail. So it's the same channel as the MultiRail. So let's go back to the other camera. So the same channel as the MultiRail. So SpeedRail is not solely for portrait, but it is that would be the main use of the SpeedRail. The SpeedRail runs long ways against the roof, and the module, sorry, would sit portrait, and it's exactly the same process. So the K2 nut sits underneath. We're able then to put the
okay.
on top.
It's pretty much the same, and it's also roof parallel, right?
So the
RailUp, but I think the question was more like if you can have a elevation in one certain direction. For example, like you have the S-dome small with 10 degrees, but which is only possible with landscape orientated modules.
Okay, yeah. So elevation off the roof, possible in both orientation, portrait and landscape, yes. And then extra inclination. So what the S-dome small I just showed, and we also have another product called the Mini 5, which I will show in a moment, are both in the direction of the roof or roof parallel. So if for some reason you would require inclination roof perpendicular, we are able to do this with our dome system, so either our S-dome or our D-dome. However, this is not possible in base, and so you'll have to contact sort of K2 sales, and we'll be able to put together a quote for it. However, the standard setup only allows for inclination in the direction of the roof.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. So I think we just showed the S-dome small, but we also have what we call a Mini 5 for 5 degrees inclination. So the S-dome small was for 10 degrees inclination. And here we have the Mini 5. So this is just for if you require a little bit of inclination and you want to use the MiniRail system. This is an option. So these, what you'd call a peak and a foot perhaps, or a high point and a low point, slide in. They have the same profile channel as the MiniRail itself, and on top is also a MiniRail channel. So the clamp that fits into the MiniRail channel underneath is the same clamp that will fit in the MiniRail channel on top. These are then fixed with a nut and a bolt and a lock nut, and they slide in to both sides where aligned, and then are tightened. So how tight that, like the requirements for this installation is all shown in our assembly instructions, which I think Roman will show the location of a bit later. But it's quite a simple and easy to add addition to the MiniRail system. So Roman, that was about all I had for the moment. If there's no questions, I will hand over to you for the software demonstration.
Okay, thank you very much, Karen. Thanks for the nice presentation. I don't think there are any more questions open right now. So we would continue with the online part with our website. Thanks again, Karen. We'll stay in contact. If there are questions, feel free still to ask them in the Q&A section, and Karen will answer them. And I think I'll start now. Thanks again, Karen.
Yeah, thanks, Roman.
So I'll just start by sharing my screen. And so then we will start with the website. I think you must be able to see the website now. So for the website, there's actually not too much to show today, but I actually want to show, I want to get more deeper into how to find, for example, the assembly instructions. And as we are on trapezoidal sheet metals today, we will go and find one of the systems here. I think we will start with the SpeedRail system, which you find right on the top. And then it's quite easy if you wanna, you have a look for some, actually for some parts, for some sheets to download, some PDF files, for example. You only click on the download button, which is very easy to find, and it scrolls you down right away. You can also go back to the components or the references, but for now we will stay with the download button, and we will have a look at the assembly instruction, which we can find here. We'll go for the English version, of course, and have a quick look. The assembly instruction always starts with the first page. You have a quick overview what the system looks like and which system it is about. And then there are, for example, the content, what's inside, and which tools you need, and for example, the requirements, what the roofs are having, for example, for this system. And as you heard Karen before, the crest distance of the trapezoidal sheet is quite important. For example, here for the SpeedRail system, we see it's written, we need at least 22 millimeters. That's the crest width. Also, the sheet thickness is quite important, which is for a steel sheet, it's 0.4 millimeters and 0.5 for aluminum. But we don't have to go through all of this now. I just want to point out that there are very valuable informations which you maybe need to have a look at first before you start planning your system. So while we are already on the assembly instruction for SpeedRail system, I want to show you or point out another part, which is right here. Karen was explaining how to fix the speed clips onto the roof and then clip the rail in, which is going first into one end and then slide it down into the other end. And then it might be still a bit loose. And you will see here on page 11 that you have like 1, 2, 3 speed clips in the same direction, always slide into the top, let it slide down to the bottom. And the fourth one turned around, you see it here as the on the K2 mark. This one is turned around, so the speed rail is fixed into the speed clips and cannot jump out anymore. So many informations in here, which are quite useful. As you see here, this is the rail connector, which Karen was pointing out before as well. And yeah, I think that's about it for the SpeedRail system. I would like to go back to our product and have a look on the MiniRail system, because in the assembly instruction of the MiniRail system, you have an overview, same as in the SpeedRail assembly instruction. but there are, of course, different requirements for the roof, and it's a whole different system. So it gives you quite a lot of information about the system itself. So as we see here, it's the first sheet. Same, you see the system at front. It's written which kind of system you have, and then you get the second and third pages, the content of the assembly instruction, which tools you need, and also what are the requirements for the roof. And here, I want to point out what Karen was also mentioning before. The crest spacing is quite important for the short rail because we have the pre-drilled holes. And once you get out of this area, you will not able to use these holes anymore. So you won't have the static report. That's why it's quite important to measure out the crest distance up front and have a look, are we in the range of 101 to 350 millimeters. Also here is the minimum width of the crest, 22 millimeters. And then we continue with the roof pitch and all that, but we don't have to read all this through now. I think if you are interested, you are able to read yourself and download the whole file so you have it on your computer. You can even print it out and take it to the construction site. There's one more thing which I want to show. It's actually shown here in the assembly instruction. It is possible for the MiniRail to clamp on either way, portrait, like with the long side, quarter clamping, or quarter clamping on the short side in landscape orientation. Also, it shows how you're handling the Mini 5 elevation. So, one more thing Karen was talking about before. If you're using the Mini 5 elevation, then you have to fix it. You have to fix it on the rail somehow. And also, this is quite easy and understandable, explained in this assembly instruction. I'm going to scroll down to find it. Sorry for this. Oh yeah, there we go. It's page 14, which we see we have the elevation here. Both the bolt and the nut is right in the center point of the whole module array. So this way, the whole module array will not move left or right. Okay, are there any more questions for the assembly instructions or the website for now?
There's none at the moment, Roman,
none
but
at the moment?
I think like a good point to make is if you're considering the MiniRail system and the roof that you have is not, the crest distance is too much, that doesn't mean you're unable to plan any system on there. It just means that the MiniRail is not suitable. So perhaps SpeedRail might be a better option, or you might have to move to the rails running parallel with the roof. So either the MultiRail or the MicroRail. That's
very good explained, Karen. Also, here we come to our smart tool K2 base, which if you are pointing out, especially the crest distance, I was actually pre-planning a roof for this webinar before. And if you have a different crest distance, you won't be able to plan the MiniRail system. So we have a very smart tool for this. Like Karen said before with the clamps, if you have a module frame height of, for example, let's say 45, you won't be able to plan the one mid, one end clamp because it's just not possible. And our tool knows this. Okay, so if there are no more questions, nothing to mention, Karen?
No, I think we're good to continue.
Okay, then I would just start with K2 base. And as I said, this is the webinar for the trapezoidal sheet. I did plan a roof up front because I did this the last few times. If you don't know how to plan a roof, there are tutorials will help you quite a lot. It's not very difficult to learn how to use K2 base. And please have a look into those little videos, which is very easy explained how to plan a roof, how to plan a module array and all that. So we continue now with the pre-planned roof, which I'm continuing in a 2D view, which makes it a little bit easier, at least in my opinion. One more thing again, want to point out there are very important values which you have to type in, just like the crest distance, the crest width, and the reason is what I just said. Otherwise, we won't be able to plan the right system which is suitable for the roof. So we did the roof planning, we did choose the module. So now we are choosing our system which we want to use. And I would say, first things first, if we click on one of the systems, we can see we have now pre-select MiniRail and its parallel, roof parallel. What we can do is now choose between portrait and landscape. It will stay pre-selected as it's possible. And just as an example, if we click on MultiRail, it pre-selects directly the landscape orientation because portrait is not possible. If we try now to change the portrait orientation, have a look at what happens to the MiniRail, the pre-selection will go off. So this is not working out. That's what I meant with the smart tool. It knows what's possible and it knows what's not. So another example is the SpeedRail system. We are able to use it as a portrait or landscape. Same with the MicroRail and the MultiRail, only landscape position. If you change back to portrait, it's not selected anymore. For now, we want to go with the SpeedRail, and in portrait, I want to draw a module array and just add it to the roof. Just by one click and another click. And here we have our beautiful module array, which we can still extend and make it a little bit shorter, bigger, however you like it, by just clicking and holding the mouse and just moving the mouse front, up and down, left and right, however you like it. So now also what's quite sophisticating here is you have the thermal extension, thermal gaps after the 8 modules here, which Karen was mentioning before. 8.8 meters is the longest array you can get. After that, we need a thermal extension. Sometimes, depends on the module size, we only have 7 modules by now because the module width is just getting bigger and bigger. And that's why you cannot go with 8 modules just as a preset. It's about the 8.8 meters. Also, here we are in this area where you can still change the mounting system, module orientation, and also if you don't want to use the one mid one end clamps, you can still use the XS and standard end clamps. You can just change this up here, and even you can change the color of the clamps to between black and silver. So for now, we want to continue with the loads. And if you typed in the address right, as you have it, the K2 base will just, it's implemented all the loads which are right for this location. So for example, here in Germany, we have the ground elevation of 411 meters, which is already preset and implemented in K2 base. Also the wind load zone and the snow load. All you have to change is now the terrain category, because that's difficult for the program to know if you are, for example, in an industrial area or on the coast or whatever. But it's easy. If you don't know which terrain category you are in, just click on the little question mark here and it will show you which one you are. So we are in the category 3.
And Roman, just yes. a quick one. So this project's in Germany. If we were in a different country, what would this, would this system still work, or?
The system would still work, but it depends on which, if it's like in the Euro code, or if it's in the settings on the preset of K2 base. I don't know the name for this exactly, but I will show you just now. If we go back to project, then you can still choose either you're in the EN, which means the English one, or the Euro code. So depends on the different countries. For example, I plan a lot in Switzerland. I don't have the preset wind and snow loads. Well, the loads, yes, but not the zone, the wind load zone and the snow load zone. So you still have to change a little bit more. It's not for every country, but every country is a bit different. Yeah, so you have to look which area you're planning in, and then have to find out what you have to change. This is just an example in the German area, but different countries, different implementation.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
You're welcome. So I think we did this planning right. With the loads, we set everything up and we come to the results. This would be the next step. And we can, I'll just turn everything off to make it easy to understand. So now we only see the red line, which is the roof, which points out the roof. The gray part is an obstruction, just like a light band or whatever it should be. And then we see our modules, the rails, and our fasteners, which are this black gray squarish. So, and if you want to have a look on, if you go on every crest or every second crest, you can always turn on your substructure and you will see those gray lines are your crests. And on here you see exactly on which position you have to put on your speed clips. Because if we're using the SpeedRail, of course, we are using as a fastener, we use the speed clip. And over here, it's pointing out you have to go on every second crest, as you see. Also, it's pointing out where you have the speed locks, for example, and the rail connector. You can play around here a little bit. It's quite important to know what's actually the meaning of the different buttons here. One more thing I really want to point out is the roof areas, which we turn on with this button. And obviously on the corner area, we have higher loads, higher wind loads. It's more aggressive onto the panels. That's why we sometimes need more fastener in the corner area, which is red here, or the side area, which is yellow. And the easiest on the wind loads, for example, is the center area, which is white. You don't see it right now, but I can also turn the modules off so you see it's very similar. Like in the center, it's just a white field. Are there any more questions to this for now?
There's none at the moment.
None at the moment? Okay. So then one more little trick I want to show you because I really like this one, especially for the SpeedRail. Here you have the option to choose between the rail lengths which are available. And if you have now, for example, we have 8 modules in a row, we click on the rail itself and the result opens another page which shows you the exact rail length, also the loads on the module and all that, but that's happening if you click on the module as well. It will show you exactly the same window. But then if you click directly on a rail, it shows you the rail length which you need. And this way, you can plan with the perfect rail length that you are using most of your rail. So for example, here we need 8.58. Obviously the 4.4 and another 4.4 is the best option to choose from. On the other hand, we have only 3 modules here, just as an example. The rail length would be 3.28 meters. If we have 2 or 3, if we have the option to use different rail lengths, then we would obviously go with the 4.4 and the 3.3 meter. And this way we have in our summary, in our bill of materials, we have 2 different rail lengths, but that's perfectly set for exactly this project. So one more thing here to K2 base. I did the planning now with a SpeedRail system. I want to show you, what else can I show you? If you don't want to have this module array on exact this position, you can always close the array closer to the edges and then choose the position by an exact number. So for example, we want to go more into the center, 3 meters from this area and a bit more up. So we can say 1 meter from the bottom part. It shows you exactly, okay, if we go 1 meter from the bottom part, from the bottom line, we are losing modules because we go too deep into our obstruction. And that's why the program is deleting the modules out automatically. So what else can I show? We will change to another system, for example, here, or I just delete the whole module array and plan a new system. Let's go with the, for example, the MultiRail module array. And here we see in the horizontal direction, we don't need the thermal gaps because our rails, which we see on the result page, our rails are very short, and going this direction, 2 modules are sharing one of the rails in the center point, but not left and right, and that's why a thermal gap in this direction, in the vertical direction, is not necessary at the moment. And also,
just on that, Roman, so like we do need a thermal gap in the vertical direction, but just not.
Okay, so we
not
need
in this
one.
space, right? Is that what you're saying? Because it's just a small roof.
Exactly, exactly. We do need one, but just after, I think, 24 meters. I'm not quite sure, but we could have a look in our assembly instruction. We go back to our website, go back to trapezoidal sheet, have a look at the MultiRail system. And as I said before, it's all written in the assembly instruction. If you don't know it at the moment, you know where to find it. That's what I want to say. Assembly instruction in English, and here we are. It's written here. The distance between multi-rails must be at least 10 millimeters.
Just where your
The
cursor
thermal
is there.
separation is 13.6. This is the vertical crest direction. Exactly.
Yeah.
So there we are. You have the answer right away.
Yeah,
right.
And then if you go back to the project.
To the project?
Yes, and then is that saying that it is then unlimited in the horizontal direction?
In the horizontal direction, yes, I think it is.
Yeah, and because there's no...
Exactly. There are short rails, that's why we can go longer than with the SpeedRail, for example, with the long rail, but we still have to go for thermal gap in the horizontal direction, but we don't need one exactly in this direction, in the vertical direction. But let's say we need one current, what do we do then? Can we have one?
Oh, I think we can.
Of course we can. So I'll show you now. We'll go back to the design. And let's say we need a thermal gap after 5 modules or 6 modules. Karen, how many modules do you want?
I think 4.
4 modules? Okay. So here's a button where we can click on the thermal gaps directly. Then we can have a setup for all the time for this project or for this roof. For all the module arrays. So for example, now we need them for every 4th module. We need a thermal gap of how wide? Let's say 200 millimeters.
Well, no, let's say we need one for like a walking space. Maybe there's some stairs or something to be installed. So maybe like 500 or 1,000.
Let's say 600 millimeters walking space. Okay, after every 4th module. So very simple, very easy. We have them now on after every 4th module. But then if we say, okay, we need one separate one on another point because we have, I don't know, there's a chimney or whatever is on the roof, we're still able to click on those buttons. And as you see, there's a vertical line and a horizontal line. So we click on a vertical line and you saw them turning red, those lines. So if we click on one of them, it turns yellowish and we can put a thermal gap in the way we want it. 600 millimeters, 1,000 or 100, 10,000 is maybe a bit too much, but you see there's even a different length or the width of the thermal gaps here. Also, if you want one horizontal, let's just do it that way. We can have one here. I would have to put the module area a bit bigger to keep the same amount of modules. So there we go. Now we also have the horizontal one. And it's changing because that's very important. If you have a thermal gap this direction, you will need more parts. For this project here with MultiRail, you need more multi-rails. Usually there are 2 modules sharing 2 multi-rails, but over here, if you have a thermal gap, obviously you need 2 more. So in the summary, it will change up, and that's why we always try to make the biggest module arrays or to plan the biggest module arrays as we can. Okay, I think that was it from my side from K2 Base. Are there more questions?
Thanks for that, Rowan. There's none at the moment.
None at the moment.
We'll have a little bit of time now. If anyone has some questions they would like to ask either myself or Roman, you can raise your hand and we will be able to turn your microphone on and have a discussion. So we have a little, 5 to 10 minutes to allow for this.
So yeah, we'll be still here. If you have any more questions, you can either write them in the chat or just raise your hand. Virtual, of course. Oh, no more questions. Doesn't look like it. Q&A section is also empty.
And we have, if anything has come to you later, sort of after this session, there's a lot more information on YouTube regards to the systems individually, but also the flat roof, the trapezoidal roofs as a topic as well. So on YouTube and on our website, you can find lots of information. We'll send out a link when an email either later this afternoon or tomorrow with some of the information that we've discussed today and some of the locations to find this information if you ever need it again.
Exactly. And also this webinar is recorded and you'll be able to watch it again if you really want to, or if you have something to look up to. And I don't think there are more questions for now, are there?
We must have been very informative, I think.
I think so, yes.
Yeah.
So if there are no questions, that's good for us, because then we said pretty much everything and it was clear. Happy about this. So I want to mention again, next week, there's another webinar also about can be trapezoidal, but how to fix it in the substructure and also for the corrugated sheet. So we are using hanger bolts, solar fasteners, and also other parts. You're welcome if you really like the webinar, and we are happy to see you again. I think that was from my side. Oh, there's a hand, actually. Someone raised their hand. Daniel, you want to ask a question? So I think you can talk now. Yeah, Daniel, we can hear you.
Is your microphone on, Daniel, on your end, or off mute? We are unable to hear anything at the moment.
It doesn't work?
Well, you're welcome to type your question into the chat as well if we're unable to hear you.
Yeah, maybe we can answer the question in the chat then. Otherwise, Karen, you'll stay a bit longer?
Yes, I will.
He's just writing my mic has a problem. So maybe he's just asking the question in the chat. Not a big deal. Okay. Okay.
Oh, NRAC presentation. That's a good question. So at the moment, we don't have an NRAC presentation planned. We're still working out the exact formula of these series. So we might every 6 weeks have a new topic. So like at the moment, the plan is we'll go sort of our standard systems and then repeat our standard systems. But we're considering putting in a new topic every sort of 4 to 6 weeks. It's not confirmed yet, but this will cover things like the NRAC, perhaps our triangle or multi-angles.
Also bespoke solutions, which we already done, which is it's not one of the standard systems, but still we have done it quite a lot. So this kind of solutions, just this kind of webinars, right? Karen, is what you're saying?
Yeah, at the moment. So we may do an NRAC one in the future, but at the moment it's not planned.
Okay. All right, so I'll be out now. Thank you everyone for watching. Karen, you'll stay a bit longer to answer some questions if there are some more coming.
Yeah.
Thank you everyone for watching. Thanks, Karen, for the presentation.
No, thank you, Roman, for your help and your base expertise. It's always good to see.
You're welcome. Hope to see everyone again next week. Until then, I'll see you. Bye.
Thanks, Roman.